Hello, good evening to those watching this evening. This is a whistleblowing session that we're having from one side of the Atlantic to the other. And what we're going to be doing is exposing the lies that are being told in Ireland, lies told by the Green Party in Ireland, and the lies being told by governments on both sides of the Atlantic, because we have a massive cover-up of reality and truth that needs to be exposed as a matter of urgency, especially now we are on the 3rd of November. A lot of truth has come out in the last week, and now the government is soon to dissolve in Ireland, and the people responsible for creating the crisis that they have are about to leave office. So let me introduce you to Chris Digiulio and to Tonyehn Verkitus. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right. I would invite you to elaborate on who you are and why you're here helping us this evening.
Sure. I'm Tonyehn Verkitus, the Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility, Pennsylvania. Our work actually focuses on oil and gas development, particularly fracking, and the health harms it poses to the public.
Thank you.
And my name is Chris Digiulio. I am the environmental chemist. I'm also a certified thermographer in optical gas imaging for Physicians for Social Responsibility of Pennsylvania as well. And I'm more of like a watchdog, and I'm boots on the ground, helping gather the stories of people who are harmed and, help validate, what it is they are actually experiencing.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for joining us to be able to try and get the truth out this evening. What's been happening here, a little bit of background, is that we have had a Green Party who were elected into government and supported to go into government on the basis that they would ban LNG coming into Ireland. This follows a decade of work we've had as grassroots to actually stop fracking in Ireland. We have license areas, and we've had licenses, and we've actually had the industry on the ground here, very close to where I live at the minute. And it's been traumatic and scary. And, the work of Physicians for Social Responsibility yourselves has been incredibly helpful to us to inform our community. And we're very grateful for that, because you helped us to protect our community. And we're very mindful of your reality because of that. It's just been incredibly valuable to protect our clean air and clean water, but we're conscious of that comes at the expense of the suffering of the community there. So what the Green Party have done is they have promised to ban LNG, gone into government, and then probably the quickest summary I can give is that there was been a High Court case recently where the judge basically said they needed to clarify their ban, and they have failed to do that. They have not clarified their policy that a ban is in place, and they're about to leave office in a few days as the Dáil dissolves for an election. And the guy responsible for that, Mr. Eamon Ryan, is now leaving office and not seeking re-election. So we're holding the leader of the party, Roderick O'Gorman, and those advising him responsible for this situation at the moment. They have managed to try to say that they're against commercial LNG, but at the same time, they sort of started looking at energy security, and they said, well, what if? A bit like Naomi Klein's disaster capitalism, where they try and invent, a really ridiculous, scenario. This time it's mythical, it's not real, but you know how they like to take advantage of something like that and say, well, what if somebody sent deep sea divers under and they blew up the pipelines, and then we would need more gas, for a couple of days or whatever. So, it's a long sort of process they've gone through. But in that process that they went through to decide that they wanted to have an LNG station for bringing in for energy security, what they did was that they decided that it would not use frack gas, and they decided to tell people. They decided to tell people. They told the Green Party have been on the TV and they've been in the Dáil telling people that they wouldn't use frack gas. But the process and the documents show very clearly that they will use frack gas. This will be frack gas. So we met with them last week and we thought, like, have they missed this? Because we knew this. And when we met the leader, they knew. They knew. Roderick O'Gorman and his advisors knew this was going to be frack gas. But at the same time, their TDs and their people are out telling everybody it's not going to be frack gas, right? So then what I really hope to bring to people this evening is when they're not telling the truth, right? Now, given that we have a ban on frack gas, right? So their energy security policy should fall apart at that point, but it's only getting ahead because they're not telling the truth about it. But when they're telling people it's not going to be frack gas, what are they hiding? Right? So if you could tell the people in Ireland what the Green Party are hiding when they're not telling the truth.
If they're not bringing frack gas, my first question would be, what gas are they bringing and where is it from? Because in Pennsylvania, the only way they get gas is from fracking. And if it's New Fortress or whatever company that we're seeing here, we're getting heavily invested in, on this side, even like an uptick in fracking, and a lot of these communities are already harmed. It is frack gas and only frack gas that comes from Pennsylvania. So the lie is the source is frack gas, where Pennsylvanians are being harmed. I don't know what other gas they would be bringing in. To be honest, not trying to laugh, but that's an
Yeah,
interesting tactic. I think I've heard stranded gas, which is
yeah,
a very industry manipulative term, which has only been associated with things in like the Permian Basin. It's an industry word to categorize. That gas is still coming from the earth. It is still putting the methane out. It is still bad. So there is no safe gas that comes out of our ground. Like, the process doesn't allow for that. It's inherently dangerous to anybody and everything, our planet. So I would say the lie is that, there is no such thing as like no frack gas coming from Pennsylvania. It's fracked gas, period.
yeah. So yes, New Fortress Energy have their application there now at the moment.
Mm.
They have actually won in the High Court, won their appeal, right? So they're now, their application for planning is back in and it's wide open because of this um, energy strategy allowing LNG.
Mm.
So it's like an absolutely insane situation that it's got to this point. And
Great.
so can you tell me, um, we have obviously benefited from the work of Physicians for Social Responsibility who measured the harms. Please tell the people, what does this mean in terms of human health harms in reality to the people where, this is what they're trying to hide? What does it mean?
Well, we recently had a 3-year study done in Southwest Pennsylvania that looked at just that. And what they found was within a mile of fracking, you have higher cancer rates, rare cancers in children, lymphoma, birth defects, low birth weights, also respiratory and asthma impacts. But even 10 miles away from fracking, you see these things. I think what people don't understand is besides that, oftentimes these wells are put within 500 feet of people's homes. So there's also the mental toll from the noise, the pollution, the vibration that people are experiencing on a daily basis. And that's part of the untold story. You can find the statistics anywhere. We don't have to tell you that. That's everywhere. But it's the actual mental and emotional toll that I think people don't pay any attention to. And they can't stop it. It's just going to be there and it's ongoing. And they have no recourse.
So when it comes to that lie you were talking about, the people on the ground, the workers, even who are being harmed by, the radiation or the hazardous chemicals, lack of personal protection equipment that is being, they're just not fully informed, so they don't even know to protect themselves. The lie also, right, there's lack of training, which then also trespasses into the community, and then actually harms the planet as well with climate, because there is no way to stop methane from leaking when you're fracking. It's part of the process. So the big lie really is the energy economics, which you are hearing the same thing over there. This is the industry. We have a very big problem in our country with lobbyists, basically telling and misinforming our public servants. And when they don't understand the truth, they're not fully informed, they end up avoiding the people who are most harmed, and pushing this fear tactic of, oh, energy economics. Oh, what if that big, really bad thing we have to have is storage? In Pennsylvania, they keep talking about energy independence, yet they're exporting all of our natural resource out. So how is that? It's about the way they manipulate it to what audience they say it to. They're very good at that. I call it the fossil fuel playbook. So like, the lie is in what they're, I always say it's what they're not saying. If you want to understand, the lie is what they're saying, is what they're not saying that they're avoiding, which is the public health impacts, the emotional struggle. It has actually like bankrupted towns too, if they want to talk about economics. It's a false argument. And the entire process of fracking, I don't think was ever meant to be in residential areas. It is an industrial process. And what that is like in the engineering and developing of this, they never considered in the engineering or development of fracking the public health or their cradle to grave, which is their waste management aspect, which is flaring, venting, the radioactive brine, the chemicals, everything that comes out of there. There's no handling of it. So we have a complete systemic problem where, the communities are being harmed, workers are being harmed at the pads. And then they're taking this radioactive waste and dumping it on our roads for road spreading, or they're taking it to landfills. So it stays within our country. So all the harm is assumed by Pennsylvanians, and we get little of the benefit. We have high gas prices still too. Like, it's really weird.
And here in my community, we have landfills that accept the waste. We have gas-fired power plants. The energy isn't even used in the community. It goes to a different state. And now we're looking at LNG storage that's going to be put in a downtown business district about 100 feet from a trampoline park that children go to. There's been no emergency response plan, no discussion about blast zones, no discussion about what sort of impact that'll have on the environment. And we are a legacy coal community, so we already have tons of legacy issues that are just being compounded by the landfill, the gas-fired plant, the LNG storage.
Yeah. This is an extractive industry, and not just extractive by taking our natural resources. It is extractive from the people, from our health, and also from our economy. So
can I ask a little bit more? We've got a picture, as much as it's brief, but I would recommend that people looked up. And we're on the 9th edition of the Compendium of Health Harms from Fracking. That anybody can watch this and go to that. There's absolutely no excuse for the reality and the truth about what it actually does to public health. So we've got, I see there's 3 levels of this. You're upstream, you're living with the communities who are living with the health harms and the trauma of this industry. We then have the communities, where LNG could potentially be coming to this LNG store down near the River Shannon at the Shannon Estuary, right? And then we have got the communities who are going to suffer as a result of the climate change impacts of this. So we're all connected in this. And so could I ask you now, I'm just trying to think, I'm going to try and do this within the next 5 minutes,
okay.
because so that we can upload it and make it more versatile for access. But if you could summarize for me 2 things, what's it like? What's the risks of living beside LNG? What's the truth about that, right? The actual LNG storage, floating storage, whatever they want to call it, the LNG terminals, all of that. What is going to happen to the communities what's the impact of this on climate change to those communities, right there. And the final thing I want you to try and tell me is, what is your message to the Green Party, who have come into government on a promise that they would ban this, have left opened the doors for it now, and are leaving office in the next few days? What would you say to them? There's three things. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the first one is the harms that I'm actually going to be having an LNG export facility too, near where I live, near Philadelphia. So I'm in Scranton right now. So we both here are impacted. The harms of that is that we understand this industry, its behaviors. It does not ever consider our public health in it or the safety of us. Our emergency responders are not fully informed. I live in blast zones. And I live every single day wondering if this, terribly reckless industry has built this thing right or is handling it right. And so we live in fear. Not just that, we live in terrible, like a higher baseline radiation area in these areas. We live with terrible air quality, and we don't know exactly what it is because the government refuses to look at it in a scientific way. So that's the harms I feel. And then
I think the transportation too of how this LNG is getting to the communities, we have to think about the trucks and trains and pipelines that are being used. And these things are being carried through highly dense populated communities where accidents can happen at any time.
As we saw in East Palestine, actually a train derailment here.
Yeah.
And as per anybody living near an LNG facility who might be putting, the risks are, to your health and safety, 110% without any benefit to yourself. So it is truly a traumatic experience. And my message, if we want to go to the message to the Green Party, I would say that, we all as public servants have a duty to uphold oaths. And if people have a human rights duty, if fracking is a human rights violation, we have no clean water, which is a basic human right. People have been without water for 13, 15, 16 years maybe now, and I have had my water harm. So when it comes to human rights, our basic human rights should be upheld. When it comes to our health, human rights should be the priority in decision making. It should not be energy economics. So please place people above profit.
Yeah. I think I would just say that they need to recognize the interconnectedness of this all. They may feel that the harms are being left at our borders because they're just receiving LNG, but there's going to be impacts in their communities, and climate change impacts everyone. So don't think that you can escape because this isn't happening in your community. You will be impacted regardless, and that's the public health of everyone.
And if people have the power to do something, you will see these harms and you will be held accountable.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I think that's what we have to start doing, is holding people accountable for their decisions, because we are all connected. And so I really enjoy that we are talking right now, and we're going to stay talking because we're not letting this happen in our communities.
Yeah. Thank you so much.